All right. Happy Monday. So happy to be with you guys this Monday morning. Um, just wanted to welcome you to my new the new name of this show is Casting the Net Mondays with Coach Rice, where we dive into the topics that matter most for your mental health and well being. I'm your host, Coach Rice, your professional certified life and health coach and trained mental health counselor. Today, I have a special guest with me. She is a health coach. Her name is Julie um, Kleinhans. And today, we're going to be exploring a very important topic, especially for now, this time in season that we in. We starting to get our New Year's resolutions together, and usually is losing a certain amount of weight or getting healthy. Well, today we're going to dive into a special topic. The name of the topic is a Christ-centered 12-step program to overcoming overeating. Sometimes we do get caught up in eating too much during the time and season of especially around the holiday season is when we really get into that, right, Julie? So, Julie, tell us what made you become, well, how was your heart driven toward becoming a health coach?
I struggled with overeating most of my life. I grew up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and I was actually very skinny, very active as a child, but definitely I see that I had overeating tendencies from early on, sneaking cookies out of the cupboard. Although I took care of that by putting WD-40 on the hinges of my mother's cupboard. Um, you find ways to get what you want when you really like that sugar. And sneaking cookies at grandma's house and going through cupboards when I was babysitting, and then once I was out into the world and making my own money, all bets were off. I could get what I wanted, and I did. And I yo-yo dieted for a lot of my adult life, and but I finally hit a point where I couldn't lose weight anymore. It was I would diet for 5 days and then binge for two, and then diet for 4 days and binge for three, and diet for 2 days and binge the rest of them. And it just, until I would just give up because it seemed pointless. It's like, well, I'm going to eat anyway, I may as well enjoy it. And I ended up getting to about 220 pounds, and I'm
Mm.
only 5'3.5", so it's a lot of weight for someone my height. And I was so uncomfortable. I started having health problems, and I knew I was not in a good place and I had to do something about it. My doctor told me, Julie, you have to lose weight. And I said, I know, but I can't stop eating. And she suggested Overeaters Anonymous, and I had never heard of that before. So it took me like 6 months, but I went to my first meeting and I said, no way, this is too weird. I just need to learn to eat in moderation. Well, that hadn't really worked for me. Trying to eat in moderation never worked because I would have a donut and I would swear that I was only going to eat that one donut, and I would end up going back for another and another. And I remember one time specifically where I had five very large donuts in one day, plus breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I did not feel good that day, as you can imagine, but it was almost like I couldn't stop myself. The food just kept calling to me. And so it took me a year to go back to Overeaters Anonymous and try again. Um, but this time I went with a little bit more of an open mind. But I still, even then, I remember sitting in my first meeting and saying, to myself. Well, no, I didn't say it just to myself. I said it out loud, and they didn't kick me out, thankfully. But I was like, well, this program doesn't look like it works because no offense, you guys are still fat like me, except for one skinny person. And what was she doing here, you know?
Right.
And they said, well, yes, I know we need to still lose weight, but I one person had lost 30 pounds, you know, they all had their own story, but they were on a path. And and so I decided to give it a try. They were so kind to me, and I wasn't quite ready. And I struggled for a couple of years, really, until one I went to a retreat and I heard somebody read Bill W.'s story from Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had never read that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous because I've never had a problem with alcohol. And I thought, that's not me. And then I read about how he struggled putting alcohol down. And one day in particular, he went into a bar. He was just going to use the phone. He wasn't going to drink. And he ended up getting drunk. And, you know, somebody suggested something, you know, he had one drink and then he was drunk. And I was like, wow, you know what? That is me with food. And I realized I really was addicted to it. And it's not surprising because now there's been so many studies showing how addictive sugar is. And even the chemicals in processed foods are very addictive. And so I learned that it's not our fault. The food is addictive. And we're actually set up by the food industry to buy more food so that they can make more money. And it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but people are coming out and saying that this is true. So knowing that the food is addictive, really the only thing that we can do is not eat it. Easier said than done, right?
Right, it is. And I've heard of that before where it is. It's not, I don't think it's at all a conspiracy theory. It has, studies have shown that sugar is addictive, just as addictive as cocaine.
Yep.
And so, and even when we, around the holidays, you get, you know, the pies, the cakes, you know, a lot of that, it, when you start to eat it, you want more of it. And it's kind of hard to stop. That's why a lot of people say during Halloween, that's when it really starts during Halloween. The sugar, the candy from the Halloween get you ready for Thanksgiving, then Christmas, then New Year's, then you back in the gym in January. But you trying to shake the sugar habit in January and trying to detox your body, right? So that it can get ready for the next phase. But we taking our body through so much because with sugar, there's inflammation. And so,
Very much.
so you have a, so you, how did you come across this? I mean, you know, how did you get to the place you read the book? It's connected to Alcoholic Anonymous and the 12 step program. So is that how you came up with the 12 step program to overeating? Is that how you came up with it?
Patterned after Overeaters Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. And really, the 12 steps is what helps us deal with the mental obsession. Um, so, you know, they say that step zero is putting down the food and then working the steps to help you overcome the mental obsession. And it's not always easy putting the food down. So I say, even if you're not quite abstinent, start working the steps. You can always do them over again. But it really does help you to get over some of the past trauma that brought us to the food to begin with. And so many of us have suffered in so many ways. And honestly, when I look back at my life, yeah, there was some suffering, but I had it pretty easy compared to some people. Just for some reason, sugar, my body is just very sensitive to it. And so it wasn't until I realized step one, accepting, that I really was addicted to it. Because without that acceptance, you really have no reason to stop.
So my question to you, you mentioned abstinence in the first step. You have to eat. So how does that look to the average person?
Yeah, I have a list of, I've got, I call it a traffic light food list guide. And I've got red foods. You just write down a list of things that you know. If once you start eating those, you can't stop. Typically, they're going to be high sugar, high fat, high carb foods, and staying away from those really brings you to abstinence. And then there's yellow foods that's like, well, sometimes I think eating it in a controlled environment seems to work. Um, and so those are like the yellow or caution foods. And for me, that's something like popcorn. Um, I couldn't overeat popcorn, but if I am out and I have one package, um, and it's, a controlled amount, then I'm fine. But when had a job a while back, they had Popcorn Friday, and the popcorn machine was right by my desk. And they started popping it at 10 o'clock, and I knew if I started, I was going to be eating it until they cleaned out the machine. And so I talked to my sponsor, and I committed to not eating any of it, and I never did.
So
So
in the program, you have sponsors?
in Overeaters Anonymous, yeah, they
Okay.
have sponsors. I call them accountability partners. Sponsors, I think sometimes seems overwhelming, and really we just need another person that we can be accountable to. And because we're all struggling, none of us is perfect. And so to call somebody a sponsor, I think can be overwhelming to people and make them not want to do it, not want to be a
Right.
sponsor. Yeah.
So you just change the wording, and you're right. Accountability partner sounds less programish and more
Yeah,
like um, and more human
right.
versus yeah, that makes sense. And so, what is the what is the most important steps in the program that makes the program work successfully?
Really think all of them together. But the reason that I wanted to start Reshape and Recover was because Overeaters Anonymous was really helpful for me. I lost 90 pounds and I've kept it off for over 16 years. But I was having a hard time going to the meetings and referring to God, our Lord and Savior, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as HP. And people um, are not always open to Christianity. And it made it hard to really follow what I believe. And so I really wanted to start a Christian version of Overeaters Anonymous. And I've expanded on it too because they really don't get into the food a lot. But because I believe so strongly that the sugar is addictive and the chemicals, and actually the sugar substitutes are really bad for you too. They're neurotoxins and really attack different parts of the body, the brain and the gut. And I was having a lot of gut problems, even though I was abstinent from sugar for so long. I didn't even realize how I had switched to sugar substitutes. And once I cut those out, my digestive system has been so much better. So it's amazing how much damage even that causes. And really, those are chemicals. Some of them not as much, but people will point to stevia, but that bothers my stomach. Some people seem to handle it okay, but I can't. And everybody's body is different. So understanding that, and I think, putting the Christian element into it is really helpful. So step one is that I accept that there's a problem and that I'm addicted to some foods. And yes, we need to eat, but we do not need to eat our binge foods. It's just like the alcoholic needs to drink, but they don't need to drink alcohol.
Right.
It's similar. It's hard for sure. It's hard. It's not easy, but it's doable. And once we get the focus off of the food and focus on Jesus, it's really helpful. Trusting in Him, praying every day, God, please help me with my abstinence. Help me even be willing to want to do this because sometimes you just want to eat and you don't want to be. So sometimes we just need to pray for willingness, even. And so steps one, two, and three, I can't do it on my own. I'm powerless. God can help me. I think I will let Him. And then steps 4 through 9 are really healing steps to help you heal from past trauma and help you see that food is not the way to deal with problems and stress and anxiety in our life. And life is hard. So having a different way to handle the problems that come up is so helpful. And then steps 10, 11, and 12 are really kind of maintenance steps and help you every day to stay on track with your food.
I love how you mentioned adding, the adding Christ in this in the center of it, because a lot of times people don't think He would help with something so minute, but it's actually not minute. It's actually a big problem. And it's interesting because in Proverbs 20, I think it's 23, where it talks about put a knife to that throat when you sit down and eat. Put a knife to that throat. And that lets you know that we need some type of control. And but to get that, when we are powerless in that situation, when we're dealing with addiction, we're powerless. We need Jesus to help us with that, because who the Son's set free is free indeed. So that prayer of Lord, give me control is sometimes missed in that particular area of weight loss. It's so true to help with those addictions, because we are powerless,
Mhm.
and the first thing we do is we want to drown out what's going on in our mind. It's like when we go to, I know, because struggle with overeating sometimes, and when I find myself doing that, it's because I'm dealing with some stress and I don't want to feel, and so I'm aware of that now, and when I don't want to feel, I go eating, and it's a temporary fix to a bigger problem. And so I think knowing that we can call on the name of Jesus in the midst of that is very, very powerful, especially when you're dealing with addiction.
Yeah. And sometimes because the addiction is so strong, in the moment we really don't even want to pray, honestly. So it's helpful to pray first thing in the morning before you get up and ask God for the willingness and to help you to not overeat. And then pray throughout the day as well before the temptation hits. And then if you know you're going into a specific situation, have a plan of action. If you know you're going to someone's house and there's going to be food there, pray before you go in and commit your food. What are you going to eat? Sometimes that means that you need to find out what's being served. If it's an event that you can bring food to, you could bring something that you know is safe for you to eat and share with others. So that's another thing that can be done. And then when you commit your food to your accountability partner and say, I'm going to so and so's house and this is what I'm going to eat, and I'm not going to eat anything else. And just committing that to another person can be so helpful.
It's similar to the program that I coach, where we do have is habits of health, where we definitely reduce the level of sugars that's entering your system, and then hydration, sleep, because all of this matters, right? In in the event that you are in a going into a healthy lifestyle, your sleep health, your movement, and all of these together is how we get healthy, right? And so when we definitely one of the things that we say when you go to someone's house or go to an event, prepare to bring your own food, if you need to do it, because sometimes they have healthy options, but if they don't, bring your own healthy options. Or when you bring your dish, you bring the healthy dish.
Right.
We teach that in our program as well.
Yeah. So also making sure you get enough protein is so important. People, especially as we age, I'm 61, so I need actually more protein than a younger person. At least that's what I have learned recently, and it was surprising to me. But around 100 grams of protein a day. It varies from person to person, so be sure to check with your doctor or a nutritionist. But it's a lot of protein. And if you eat that and make sure you get enough healthy fats, not too much, because that's easy to do, um, but you still need to eat fats. I know people who, when they go on a diet, they're eating a lot of salads, and it's not enough protein and it's not enough fat. And so I do like salads, but I'll make sure that maybe there's an avocado in there, or maybe the dressing adds some fat. But not too much. You don't want to pour half the bottle on or anything. I've seen people do that too. I had a coworker who had this salad that he was eating, and it was huge and piled with cheese and tons of salad dressing and um, tons of other things. And I was like, oh no. He's like, well, I'm trying to lose weight, and just didn't didn't know there were so many calories in that salad, and and it was still feeding his um, desire to eat because it had some sugary items in there too. So salad dressings are tricky because they're so full of chemicals and a lot of times sugar or artificial sweeteners. So I've been having a hard time finding a really good salad dressing, honestly. I find some that work okay, and I just make sure I really limit the amount that I put on there.
You know what I found, that when I use, like, if I put avocado on my salad, because I like salads as well, but I don't use dressing. What I do is I add fresh ginger. That
Oh,
has been so different for me since I added the fresh ginger to my salad. It's a game changer. It really gives that. It's a certain taste I think we look for in salad dressing, but the
so
fresh ginger does it. It does it well for salad. It's so good, and it's really a good healthy option.
is it a liquid or a powder?
You said what?
Is it a liquid or a powder that you use?
No, no, no. Fresh. I cut it up.
Oh,
I bought a fresh ginger and cut it up.
oh, okay.
It's so good. And so that's what I use for my salads because calories can add up in a salad so quickly when you don't recognize it.
That
So,
is true.
and you right, protein is key. You have to have a lot of you have to have a large amount of protein. I think what is it? Do you know how many pounds per grams? I think something like that.
5 to 35 grams per meal. So it would be about 100 grams per day.
Okay. And so, yeah, so ours is already the program I coach is calculated already in to the program. So you get the right amount of carbs, fat, proteins, and all of that. And and until you reach your healthy weight. But keeping up with the proteins is so important, especially as we get older,
Yep,
as we get older
definitely.
as well. Um,
So yeah, the 12 steps, I rewrote those and submitted them to AA, and they approved them, and they're letting me use that for this program. So I'm really grateful for that, as long as I say that I'm not affiliated with AA, and I'm happy to do that. And I wrote a program book that is available on Amazon. It's called 12 Steps to Recovery from Overeating. And I also have a journal that you can purchase. It's a 3-month journal, so you can write down what you're eating. There's a spot for a gratitude list because grateful hearts don't overeat. Well, sometimes they do, but you're gonna have a better chance if you remember your things.
that is so true. That is so true. So let me ask you a question. What um what have you seen in as some of the causes of people overeating? What have you seen in your practice where what do you see the most in your practice where you see overeating issues come in?
People have a lot of trauma um, in their lives, and it makes it really easy to go to the food. And sometimes the trauma is pretty acute, and really some therapy is needed. And it's the program, the 12 steps, really takes a lot of honesty and willingness to work through past trauma. Because in the fourth step, you write down everyone you have a resentment against, and including institutions or ideas, and that can bring up some hard memories. And for me, I also after that you write the cause and how it affected you and your part in it. And your part in it doesn't mean, oh, sometimes, we're completely the victim, and there is nothing that we could have done to change it, but going forward, we can change things, for how we move forward through it.
Oh, I like that. That is so key. I like the fact that you have a book and journal, and that's awesome. And I would definitely put. I want you to send me all your links so I can put it in the YouTube video so people can get in touch with you or purchase your journal or book if they're interested in the overeating process. And I'm so grateful that you decided to come on the show today and
Thank you.
talk about this because sometimes I like how you implemented the 12 step into that because that is an addiction and the and sometimes we don't see that certain things as an addiction, but anything that you have no control of is an addiction. And so that's so key. So, any last comments you would like, or any wisdom you would like to give to the audience today?
I do have more information and links to the book on my website at www.reshapeandrecover.com. And we
Okay.
also have a free discovery call if you wanted to schedule that with me or my husband. My husband and I do this together. I should mention him. He has been a coach and a counselor for over 25 years, so he's a definite blessing to our program. And we have meetings Saturday mornings that are free, so anyone can join. I wanted this program to be available to anyone. So,
Oh
and
yeah,
we
definitely send me the link and
will do
let
that.
and so that people can join who's interested in the program. To join those meetings. Absolutely. Well, Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've truly been blessed by what you have talked about, and I love the fact that there's hope out there for people who have overeating issues and how they can, you know, overcome it with the right steps and the support that you have for them. So thank you so much, and I'm so grateful to have met you, and um, I know we'll continue our relationship going forward, and maybe you can come back and we could talk some more about some different types of cases or something like that. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. Listeners, I hope this was helpful. If you are struggling with overeating and need help, there is there will be links in the actual chat in the Facebook comments, and soon I'll put those out, and also links in the YouTube video. If you feel this have been something that someone else can utilize, please share and subscribe to the channel. I always say that. Subscribe to the channel, get your listeners to subscribe, because I have a lot of stuff that's coming up that's valuable information, but pass it on, because sometimes people need to know what's out there and how they can get the help they need. So I definitely will say thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for your support. And we are signing off.